I love the title of this book because it's kind of catchy and a little bit aggressive. There are a few traps in this book. The first and biggest trap is that we place overwhelmingly unrealistic expectations on parents. I think that comes from our underappreciation of the complexity and the challenges involved in building skills in children. So that's the first trap, that we're basically setting up parents to fail unless they are rich and can kind of build expertise in child skill development in their spare time on their own dollar. The second trap is a little more subtle. It's that we don't have a good way to talk about the first trap. Let me explain what I mean here. I think that you and probably anybody else listening to this conversation is a little bit on edge right now. One reason this conversation makes people uncomfortable is because it's easy to confuse some of what we're talking about with an accusation that some parents are inferior to other parents. And that is always hovering in the background with these conversations about the difficulties of building skills in children. And I think that's kind of a trap because it's about our language. I think that we should judge parents based on whether they love their children, whether they do their best to help their children and advocate for them in the ways that they know how. In the book, I call that caring for children. And it is kind of like driving a car. It's something that most parents can do really well and really successfully. And I think that's a big source of the pride and the joy that a lot of parents feel in their work as parents. I do not think that we should judge parents based on their proficiency in skill development. I think that's a different job, and we need to separate those two aspects of what we're currently asking parents to do. And I think when people are uncomfortable hearing us talk about the realities of parenting today, that not all parents can build skills in kids, I think this conversation would be a lot easier if we didn't have the expectation that people should build skills in kids any more than we expect parents know how to fly their own airplanes or fix their own refrigerators and microwaves or, do any of these other complicated services that we routinely rely on professionals to provide. Okay, so that's the second trap, that we struggle to even talk about the reality of parenting without putting everybody on pins and needles. The third trap that I think is important and that I discussed in the book is that parents are not a unified political force. And we've talked about that a little bit in our conversation today. But I think parents have been fractured politically and distracted by a fixation on our K-12 school system, which again only covers about 10% of children's time between birth and age 18. Parents have very different, strong opinions about things like whether kids should pray in school. Parents have very different and strong opinions about how we should talk about sex with kids in school, about the appropriate role of teachers' unions, the appropriate role of charter schools. A lot of parents have very strong, very contradictory opinions about these issues. And that's great. It's part of our healthy, dynamic discourse. The problem is that these issues distract parents from their much, much larger shared interests in getting a lot more professional support in that other 90% of time outside of our current K-12 school system that is radically, tragically unequal. All parents would love it if they had access automatically to excellent early learning opportunities for their children before age 5. All parents would love it if they had access to excellent after-school and summer programs just automatically throughout their child's life. All parents would love it if their kids had access to professional tutoring when they were struggling with some issue in math or grammar or reading. Okay, and parents have tremendous unrealized political power if they can come together, stop fixating on their minor disagreements about exactly how to run our K-12 schools, and focus on these much larger shared interests and seize that opportunity by demanding more support from our government.